Hello, I'm Chris Lapadoulis, Anastasiopoulos. That portal has tech support coming out Tuesday. Today, I'm going to be watching and reacting to a Scott Mandelker talk. And I love the titles because they're so bland. S. Mandelker, PhD, which is this guy here, Scott Mandelker. He's the best teacher, and this is his stuff to get you for people that understand this material to get you to pay attention and to get people who will think this is actually goofy and silly and ridiculous to completely scoff at it and ignore it. So it's a dual prong approach. So I like his titles: Cosmology and Earth History. So he's talking about Ra from the Law of One, raw material. It's not the same Ra as in Egypt. It's sort of, but not this. It's not the same guy. It's not the same god. It's not the same. This is a group of 2 billion or so entities that have transitioned from third density all the way up to sixth density using this scale. Uh, they are coming in from up here, which this is a toroid that goes around a circle, so it's everything is unified here. But their level of consciousness for this group is up around here, and are they are seeking and looking to graduate to unity, which is seventh density, which is outside this universe, going back to source. But because of the karmic ties they have with us, being part of this solar system, as part of this group, they are positively oriented, and they respond to callings, high level callings, high third density callings for assistance. So that's the service they give. Let's get into it a little bit.
Good morning. Thanks for being here. Today is Wednesday, January 31, 2024. I woke up realizing, oh, Monday and Tuesday is already gone. It's already Wednesday.
Okay, while he's doing introductions, because he's talking about the time slipping faster and faster as Earth humans become more under the influence of the fourth density Earth that we're involved in right now. Actually, Earth is already our fourth density planet. It's preparing those who are ready to hear about this stuff to get to the pop the fourth density. It's sometime either now, next 10 years, or possibly next 100 years. We don't know it, but it's fun to talk about this stuff. So this is a book he wrote called From Elsewhere, being ET in America. So that title will make some people think it's ridiculous, and other people that be like, "What the hell is he talking about?" And I didn't listen. I didn't get to him that way, but I got to him a different route. But let's listen to it.
So now I think I've discovered how the week seems to go quickly. Is that Monday blurs into Tuesday. Before I know it, it's Wednesday, and at least the weekend for me comes closer. So today is class 30 in the series Cosmology and Earth Solar System History. In a new section on page 80 of the PDF, the section starts with the title is Super Weapons. But before that, and that's from, again, continuing in the sections that are associated with session 8 and secret information.
So what he's doing here, he's going through each one of the questions and sessions, which are these question and answer sessions between Don, the questioner, and it's a group of 3 people that are doing channeling. Very unique style of channeling. If you haven't heard it before, if you haven't heard the recordings before, it's interesting to hear the raw recordings. This is Ra, and it's like that. It's the weirdest channeling ever. That's what makes it unique, and probably actually what's going a real. Well, just the content of the material makes it real. I mean, it's just the stuff is so intense, and people are just now starting to understand what it is, and it's from 1981. Anyway, let's go.
Given from Ra are some very detailed analysis of what secret technologies have been amassed and are being developed, and this is 40 years ago. I'm sure they're much further developed now. We were talking in the class before.
Or not. It's pretty advanced once you have the ability to travel light over the speed of light instantaneously almost to any place else in the galaxy. Yeah. Or very quickly, a couple weeks, and it's just a luxury trip because it's on a basically a luxury liner.
About a paragraph in 8.2 from last time associated in a previous section called Secret Technology, where uh, the the UFOs, Ra had said basically, your peoples have, at this time space present, the technological achievement of being able to create and fly the shape and type of craft known to you as unidentified flying object. So that's just the ship. That doesn't mean there's the people in it either. Unfortunately, for the social memory complex vibratory rate of your peoples, meaning the collective, and that's where we were looking in our class discussion just a moment. Unfortunately, for the social memory complex vibratory rate of your peoples, these devices are not intended for the service of mankind, but for potential destructive use.
Yeah, so what that means, so Ra has this very complex, strange way of putting things, but it's because they're trying to respect free will and also respond to the calling for understanding about what's going on without letting people know what it is. So one of the ways they are allowed to have this message transmitted is that it can be easily interpreted as bullshit. So that's how they get away with like respecting free will. It's like if you are interested in this and like understand what this is talking about, what they're talking about, it makes a lot of sense. But if you don't know what they're talking about, like if you haven't like if you're not understanding what they're coming about, whether and like kind of agree with it, it's not gonna make any sense. It's gonna be like, what are you talking about? So what they're saying here is that there has been technology transfers from that Orion group. There's a negative fourth density negative group that's the reptilians, or whatever they are. They're a conglomeration of beings, but the ones that interact with us directly are the reptilians through the elite Illuminati hybrids that they have, human Orion reptilian hybrids. Um, they have had technology transfers that have enslaved us. Okay, that's what he's trying to say in the nicest way possible.
This further muddles the vibratory nexus of your social memory complex, causing a situation whereby neither those oriented towards serving others nor oriented towards serving self, neither group can gain the energy power which opens the gate to intelligent infinity for the social memory complex. This in turn causes the harvest to be small.
Right. So he says. So what that's saying is that because there's been such these weapons used on all of us, making us super confused. All the psyops, all this psionic stuff, all the psyops, all the black magic, all the cultural mucking about, and just to keep their power positions, all the use of these psionic weapons and advanced weaponry that they're just now becoming aware of that they've had for a long time. To control the society. So we're all super confused. And that's making us it's making us hard to polarize because we're either too apathetic or too screwed up from this style of society they've made us so we're actually really docile slaves. That this harvest that's coming, which is a solar event that's going to be something that the sun does periodically to flush this sector and make of this negative energy, negative entities, and to launch the Age of Aquarius. That's really the event that that Ra is talking about, and that a lot of these world religions have this thing that this is going to be the coming of the next Christ thing energy, the Samvartika fire. They have all kinds of weird names for it. So who knows if it'll happen or not? But a lot of stuff that was in this document that was poo-pooed or not even understood. Like, what are you talking about? In 1981, has been verified and is true. And it's like, yes, it's like, yeah, they have these things. They're, the technology's been suppressed for a long time, but now Okay, there you
Uh, a social memory complex doesn't.
go. Social memory complex means the group of people. Their social and their memory are all in the group together. It's not one person has all the memories of everyone. It's everyone together has all the memories together. And the reason why Ra makes a big deal about this is because at sixth density they take this as this is we are I am there's like an individual that may be speaking, but they're speaking as a group. They're like all together telepathically connected, like talking, but everyone's connected. So there's no individuation, even though they are all actually individuals, but they all talk to each other constantly at all times. Sort of like an internet that's on all the time, except you're not typing anything in, you're just kind of thinking about stuff and it just kind of comes in whether it's how things are or not.
Open the
Or
gate to intelligent
how we believe it to be. How's that?
infinity. It's the individual that makes that bridge from, the, from mind, body to spirit. or from sixth chakra to seven, or the integration of spirit complex in mind body, upward spiraling light going quite unimpeded thoroughly from root to crown, and breaking through from the gateway to intelligent infinity 6 to contact with intelligent infinity 7, 6, 7 chakra. That's done by the individual. How is it that the gates to intelligent infinity for the social memory complex exist? What does that even mean? It certainly means that humanity as a whole, the collective, is being deprived of technologies that associate with free energy, which is intelligent energy, which is associated with contact with intelligent infinity, 6, 7.
So contact with intelligent infinity, 6, 7. When he says these numbers here, he's talking about these levels in the density, and the ones the one we're at right here is at third density, and we're given the choice to go to the negative path, which is service to self, which is the Orion group, or the positive path, which is service to all, and that's where we're making the choice right here. That's what he's referring to when he's talking about 6 and 7. So at the end of 7, that's when our end of this journey in this life, this thing, 1,000, it could be 10 million lifetimes from now. That's when we merge back into the source of all, which is intelligent infinity. That's this odd language that Ra uses. It's very technical, but he's being very specific about very specific certain things that he wants to make sure are understood properly.
So seventh chakra as intelligent infinity, the linkage between the personal and intelligent infinity as the contact with intelligent infinity, which is 6 to 7, where six chakra, like 6 density, is the highest level of self-consciousness. Beyond self-consciousness, dropping identity, going from 6 to 7 density, as Ross said, then we go out of subjectivity to universal awareness. Yeah. And so there's a difference between self-consciousness, consciousness, law of one, awareness, it's 6 density. So there's a difference between self-consciousness, even unified self-consciousness, law of one, awareness, it's 6 density, higher self, versus what happens next after dropping identity going to 7 or 8. The subjectivity.
Yeah, 8 is outside the octave, so that's like from what Raw is to what they've asked a question about, like, what is above this, and they're just like, no, probably more of this. Like, you're going back to first. You're probably gonna go after you leave this. The next step is you'll become a tiny little subatomic particle, and the next one up. I guess that's. I mean, they don't know. They just like, we'll find out when we get there. Is their attitude? We don't really know that. So they're being super honest. It'll probably be something. You'll probably start over again. That's probably it. Or you exist in this space where all is bliss, which is sort of similar to this quantum foam of everyone existing super happy all the time. Everything's exuberant, yes.
If it is finished, that's real non-duality. Non-dual awareness. We don't really know what it is, but we can theorize it. When identity is gone, the being or life that had a previous identity, which in sixth density is unified self-consciousness, a unified subjectivity aware of unity, unified unitive subjectivity. Unitive subjectivity is a condition of higher self, I'd say. Dropping identity doesn't mean extinction.
Right. No. So Ra is pretty convinced that there is an identity, but it's very, very vague. And after you leave 7th, it's like you are all there is. So that's what he's talking about there.
At the end of the spiritual path, I'll get utterly wiped out and extinguished. Yeah, what a good purpose, what a good goal. That's not the game. That's not what's happening. So there is awareness continuing. It's just liberated from the stricture of subjectivity, even a unitive subjectivity, aware that all is one. That is finished. That's in the lap of intelligent infinity. But Ra, we're talking about this in the class. The withholding of.
So he has a class that he holds. I don't know about it, but he talks about it. And some of the other videos he has, you'll hear like the other people like clipped out of it, and just him answering, which is kind of cool, but whatever.
Certain free energy technology, and then its arrogation for destructive use or controlling use, mind control, because there's not just shooting lasers from UFOs here. And that's not fully what we're talking about. The arrogation of, meaning arrogating, taking to themselves of, military globalist elite types. They're not really elite. They're just tyrannical. But their reservation of the technology for themselves deprives the collective of the benefits that could have come from that, of course. But Ra's focus seems to be, I mean, what's the problem? Well, the problem, how does that stop those individuals from not themselves also not being able to gain energy power to open the gates to intelligent infinity? I don't know. The
I mean, if you're being messed with in survival mode all the time, it's gonna make it real hard to think about it. Think about trying to connect with the divine if you're totally just like don't know how you're gonna survive the next 24 to 46 hours. That might be a problem, Scott.
social complex doesn't get it. Positively oriented beings aren't helped, they're just further harmed or controlled. But those who are using those technologies, why don't they, or how is it that their, you know, their thievery, their arrogation to themselves of these technologies hurts them? I don't know. But uh, it came a little clear that Raw, the Confederation has been trying to help the collective. And this is a collective that can't be helped.
Yeah, so there's the positive confederation, which is loosely around the same goals, law of one. Basically, they all believe law is one. We're all here together, and they're positively oriented. So that's most of the galaxies like that, and from what I understand, most of the universe is like that too. But there is a good 2% that's not that are not on board with law of one. It was probably a lot more than that, but right now it's for this area. It looks like it's about 2%. And that's the Orion group, negative, the negative guys. And they are the Galactic Federation, not Confederation, the Galactic Federation. So there's a federal government leader type tyrannical system involved. So that's their stuff, and that's the ones that seems to be making deals with the U.S. government and all these world governments. So.
You can help individuals, but the collective is just, if you water the field of wheat and tares, they're both strengthened. If you feed, simultaneously the beast and the innocent, they're both strengthened. So that helps the collective? No, it just further empowers the inherent conflict of non-compatible groups in the collective. That is the collective here. So this is a damaged collective. This is a dysfunctional collective. By design, it's inevitably dysfunctional. It can't be other.
I mean, it is the collected group of all this people that are what Rock calls chronic repeaters. That's this group. We're the remedial short pass. So we refuse to polarize. So that's why we're even more screwed up. So we refuse to polarize. Refuse to pick the negative or positive. We don't want to have anything to do with it. So we have to repeat. And this I think this reptilian group found a little loophole, and they're exploiting it by keeping us confused, makes us repeat, keeps us coming back here ignorant and really easy to pliable slave class.
Otherwise than dysfunctional when you have souls pulling in opposite directions in the collective, and you have them all at all levels. You've got a whole bunch of folks who can hardly think. And then you've got people that truly are polarized, positive, negative, and those at lower levels of polarity don't know very much about what lies ahead for them on their path. They're rigidly, the gangster thinks he's the cat's meow, and the love over wisdom New Ager likewise will argue for their relative naive worldview. So you've got people at mid-levels of positive and negative path that don't really even recognize the nature of the developments they need to make to continue on their own path, because they don't see it multi-incarnationally, karmically, metaphysically. They see it as, they don't see.
So to graduate 4D, which is what the opportunity is being presented, according to Ra, is what you have to go more than 50% service to others. So like thoughts, words, and deeds, whatever you're thinking, whatever you're saying, whatever you're doing, has to be at least 50% for someone else. You don't have to be a saint. It's not 2%, not 1%. It's just 51% for other people. Just think about how your impact. It's like having manners. Okay, so if you have manners, okay, you're fine. And to graduate negative, you have to do 95% of the time. So 95% over here is service to self, and you can't fuck up. You have to do 95% the whole way through, and it's really hard to do it. But it's easier to do this one. But the negatives, they they don't exactly make it the environment easy to do it. It's like they create this dog eat dog world type of environment, which makes us fight each other. It keeps us outside the law of one.
I mean, the positive would to some degree, but their view is very limited, even those that are mid-level on both paths. And so, in any case, and then you've got those at the top of the negative that have very good, capable ability to control everybody who's less wise, less negative than themselves.
Yeah, one of the things I've noticed with these LNL groups, I've only known a couple of them, and do see them pop up online every once in a while. I have tried to watch their videos, but it seems like they're just co-opted new age groups because they always do like a meditation stuff at the beginning and all that stuff. It's like I like Scott's approach because he's like, this stuff's fucked up. This is really a fucked up situation, and what has been what we're expected to deal with and how to graduate is like almost impossible. And he says, I'm going to bring this up with Council Saturn, which is like a higher density kind of group for that overwatches this Earth remedial group and allows certain things to happen here for our benefit. But man, some of the decisions they make are just like, are you serious, guys? This is making things so much worse. But who am I to know? Who am I to know what their decisions, how the things are? Maybe we're being prepped for something more hardcore. But from what Ross says, like, no, you guys just don't care, and it's kind of your problem. And I wish you guys would, at least some of you would not do that and try and get yourself out of this mess.
And then the higher positively oriented people check out of society, are not really part of it. So the collective is doomed. It's irredeemable, collective irredeemability. So it seems.
Well, it's pretty sour attitude, but damn, they've been repeating for a long time, and Ross says it's like less than 1% are ready to graduate to 4D positive. It's like, damn. And this is such a beautiful place too. It's like, this world is wonderful, but it's not. It's just the negative influences makes this group negative group has been like scared straight, where they jail kids that are screwing up to try and get them to get in line, because I know that the negatives don't have full control of this place. This is a positive oriented world. They're allowed here to do like a luxury training camp. That stuff's working. Maybe we need to go out. Maybe this group needs to be get more harshness for it to wake up. I don't know.
It seems that it's taken many millennia for the Confederation to figure out that you can't fertilize a garden of weeds and flowers without strengthening the weeds that choke out flowers. You can't fertilize a garden where a garden that includes parasitic plants.
Yeah, the parasites will take over and it won't be a thing. So that's kind of what's been going on here. And Scott's kind of salty about it. I'm a little salty about it too. Once I understood kind of his point of view, and that's where I kind of can't get on board with a lot of the LNL new age groups because they don't talk about this stuff. It's like, this is a major this is a big problem. I mean, I get why some of these yogis go off in the woods and say, please don't visit me, go away.
Because they'll be empowered and end up parasitizing those that wouldn't do so, that don't do so.
Right.
Positively oriented and the innocents.
Yeah, it's the bad apples spoil a bunch. Yeah.
So the collective, but there is some kind of strange bias, I think, from Ra, which is very surprising, because that wasn't their experience in 3D Venus. There's a sort of bias that technology is important. I've said this from the beginning. They should have been left in the caves. But you see, they meaning this collective. But if they call,
it's not possible. I understand what Scott's talking about, and like this latest wave of tech with the black scrying tablets and them allowing the demons to be evoked through these tablets and take over people's minds super fast and easy without them even knowing what's going on. Okay, that aspect, yeah. But I think we got this. I think this has been some of the people here that are these repeaters have done this to other people, and they need to go through it and realize what it is, or maybe this is one of the main last gates. It's like, okay, whoever can like survive this black scrying tablet mirror mind control psyop thing, they're good to go. But if you can't, well, maybe you need to perform a few more rounds of this baloney.
all they deserve response, and so the logos, by design, allows more highly developed positives and negatives coming here, who rightly then call, and the negatives call for technology to empower their control, and then they arrogate to themselves, and the Confederation, with most shocking naivete, ends up supporting the negatives. by foolishly fertilizing the collective with technology.
Yeah, yeah. The Raw group is definitely naive.
It's beyond me how that could be. But it's
It's because they're super high. It's like they're on ecstasy. Like listen to how they talk about there's certain things. They're super. All they're got like their eye on the prize, right? They want to go back to the source, and they're very close. So they're have this. It's like we're all in this together. It's all good. La 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 la. Okay, we're gonna give you the secrets to how this works. Okay, you guys do now. Please play nice to each other. It's kind of raw. That's kind of raw in some ways. Yeah, it's kind of how they are a little bit. It's like, didn't you think that these guys were gonna do that? Like, no, we really didn't see that. And the Council of Saturn, like, they saw it. I know they saw it. So maybe it's just something we need to go through. I don't know.
it's not very commendable or respectable. So the new material, page 80, section called Super Weapons, also session 8, 8.7, and you'll see that there are all sorts of things when we're talking about craft. We're talking about a range of usage. It's not simply, because they're unmanned. They're not for like travel, or that's part of it, but there's much more than just travel. George Jetson in play here. So 8.7, Don's question: I'm puzzled by these craft that we have undersea bases for. They are inaudible. Is this technology sufficient to overshadow all other armaments? Good question. Do we have just the ability to fly in these craft, or are there any weapons like there are ... Were they given to us for 3 inaudibles in one paragraph of Don's question? Think that they were being interfered with here?
Yeah.
Were they given to us inaudible, or are they just craft for transport? What is the basic mechanism of their inaudible? It's really hard to believe what I'm saying. It's really hard for him to finish the sentences without the mechanical malfunctionings as well.
So they had 3 after a series of these events of this problem, which this is still early on. They're still having problems. They had 3 tape recorders going by the end of this 108, 109 sessions, 110 sessions. 3 going because the machines kept breaking all the time, and they would never break. They've been using them for even years before this in classes and stuff. It would just always, tapes would break, batteries would die, the thing would just malfunction. They have such a hard time keeping recording these contacts.
So, what are these craft that draw on intelligent infinity?
The interference from the 5th density warlocks, the guys, the negative guys, up here. After they've gone through 4. So this is a group consciousness. They go back to individuals. So we got individual, group, individual, group. So they go back to a very individual. So they beam in their psychic energy to the 3rd density and 4th density beings. Mostly 4th density because it takes a lot of power to jump down to 2. So they usually just go through the 4th density, and then the 4th density ones do the orders or suggestions. Sorry.
What are they for? Do they overshadow all other armaments because they're raw stated as destructive, or we know that they're weaponry in some sense? How does it relate to other weapons? Do we have the ability? Do we have just the ability to fly, meaning transport, or are there weapons like there are? Were they given, or they craft for transport? So he's wondering, these craft are for what purposes? Transport, or more than only transport? What's the basic mechanism of their, which was probably their propulsion? It's really hard to believe what I'm saying. It's really hard to get it all out as well without higher dimensional interference. Ra's answer: the craft are perhaps misnamed in some instances. Right. So, Ra doesn't try to confuse, but they go with what seems best at any one point in response to Don's answers. And if Don's reply to their answer shows that their answer was phrased in a way that generates some confusion, then they'll rephrase their reply, and improve the naming. So anyway.
Yeah, so it's really great that Scott goes in explains in detail, because if you read the books or listen to the tapes, it's so hard to understand what the hell they're talking about. The distortions of the law and the distortions, it's like very difficult. But when someone like Scott can break it down, explain what's going on here and relate it to other material, Buddhist material, Christian material, secret society material, all kinds of stuff, other ufology type things, which he does not involve with ufology anymore because he basically got picked up by these agents and just harassed horribly. He had to leave the country. Actually, that's why he's in overseas, and I think he's in Thailand right now.
Anyway, The craft are perhaps misnamed in some instances, because they're not only craft. It would be more appropriate to consider them as weaponry. Uh-huh. The energy used is that of the field of electromagnetic energy which polarizes the Earth's sphere. The weaponry is of two kinds. That which is called by your people's psychotronic mind, and that which is called by your people's particle beam. The amount of destruction which is contained in this technology is considerable, and the weapons have been used in many cases to alter weather patterns and to enhance vibratory change which engulfs your planet at this time.
So, this is probably why this climate change warning was put up here. Because this is 1981. Weather, the ability to change the weather with particle beams was not known. And it was coming through this very odd source. And no one else was talking about any of this crap about how to modify weather patterns in 1981, except this weird source that we didn't even get confirmation of this stuff with the HARP stuff until like the 90s. Okay.
And so this is the big solid answer. This is sort of at the heart of Session 8, which is the heart of Ra's disclosure of secret space program in some way, some portion of it. So it's a misnomer to call them craft, because it's not about taking guys up and bringing them over. That may be happening, but that's not the whole, and it may be actually the minority, meaning most of these, as was said, right, they could be called drones, right, autonomous unmanned vehicles, that kind of thing. UAVs on what is unidentified aerial vehicles. All these silly. I mean, liars keep concocting new words. You know, we should be very careful about that. Liars speak to confuse, to control, and keep putting out new vocabulary to, to baffle the kids. So
yeah, that's standard cult activity as well, as they give a new nerd, new term, and the thing it's like, oh, new idea. It's like, oh no, it's just democracy, or no, this is going to be a constitutional republic where a small group of people get to at the top, and then their technocratic class gets to take the orders and run the shops and run the organizations, and then they manage another class of people who manage and take advantage of a lower class. That's the new system. It's called democracy. It's called communism. It's called fascism. It's called congressionalism. We're gonna have a small group of people at the top, and then the people at the bottom. It's always the same.
Really, some are used for transport, could be called craft, but the majority, I would think, are weaponry. But the weaponry is high energy directed to multiple theaters. So it's used of electromagnetic energy which polarizes the Earth's sphere. So we're talking about free energy of some sort. I'm not a physics fellow.
Well, yeah, so I've got some videos about the atmospheric energy. There's gravitational energy. There's the quantum flux energy. Who knows? Like all kinds of shit. There's these ley line things that may be part of it too. And they got something. They've tapped into multiple things. How's that?
So it's the energy. Is it, 0 point energy? Is it so-called free energy? Is it orgone energy? Right? Reich talking about that?
Yeah,
what are we talking about? Are we talking about light, pure light as etheric energy field, chakra 6 density?
Sure, why not?
I don't know all the different, designations and portions of energy spectra, X spectrum that could be drawn from here.
Well, Einstein with his photonic effect, pretty sure, you can convert one level of photonic energy to any level lower photonic energy. Okay, all right.
Whatever. It's sort of apparently, you see, light energy is higher than electromagnetic, and so that's the point. There are energy fields that support the planet that are stepped down from intelligent energy, or light with a capital L, and that polarizing the Earth's sphere. Polarizing means maintaining bipolarity, and it may be electromagnetic. It may simply be another misnomer, another misnaming for Ra to say electromagnetic energy, because we're talking about something beyond that, because that's what really free energy or 0 point energy or orgone energy or élan vital or all sorts of other words have been used. Prana, chi, intelligent energy. It may be that, not quite electromagnetic.
Right.
I don't know. In any case, it's like there's more going on than what Ra's saying. But what they're saying,
they're not getting refueled. Put it that way.
Is quite big enough. And one of the utilizations is psychotronic and the other particle beam. But we're talking about altering weather patterns. So we would call it weather weaponry, thinking that that's different than particle beam weaponry, thinking that that's different than psychotronic weaponry. Actually, one ring rules them all.
I mean, they have shown that those electromagnetic fields have an effect on animals and people. Okay, so that's psychotronic. These names are all funny.
access to intelligent energy, light with a capital L, prana, chi, whatever. If that, if like scalar, I mean, scalar is what is the basis of electromagnetic. I mean, the polarity of electromagnetism, or electromagnetism is far from my layman's little understanding. Electromagnetism is polarized itself, electromagnetic. There's a basis of that, and that's scalar. But is that different than free energy, or zero-point energy, or orgone energy, or prana, or chi, or intelligent energy? Is that? Is scalar intelligent energy? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not into that thing.
It's all in the mix.
So, but it may be, and I think we're talking about an energy sourcing that itself is more potent than electromagnetic. That's why it can play freely through the electromagnetic. But the real bitter matter here is that the amount of destruction contained in this technology, or accessed by this technology, or possible by utilization of this technology, is considerable destruction, and it includes weather modification. And nobody was talking about this in 1981. Nobody.
Right.
And it's only session 8. So Ra is...
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff in this raw material that wasn't disclosed until way later. People weren't even talking about it until way later. Wild.
Sort of defining, establishing or indicating the range of their comprehension, which here is quite capable of, is quite well knowing the hidden human, and the secret technologies and how those things have been developed. Okay, and back to the point of secret. 8.8. Don asks, how have they been able to keep this a secret? Why aren't these craft in use for transport? Good boy. This is 1981, and
so Don is a physics professor, and I think he's also a pilot at one point. So he knows a lot of this physics type questions, and he's asking physicsy types of things. But Ra is answering. So Don is asking at this level, and Ra tries to answer here. And it's a little confusing because they're coming from up here, right? They really know this one, but this one's foggy, so they try and dip down, and it's hard for them to get back to how we exist, what our level of reality and consciousness. So that's why we're having there's so much trouble with this.
Don was a good guy, and even wisdom over love can be naive in terms of evil, and even a brilliant mind, or a great mind and a good sincere man, can be naive. Nearly nobody here ever wants to know how little they know. Nearly nobody wants to say how little they know or admit, and thus there's a big problem. Then they're shocked, because they didn't realize how little they knew, or they didn't know X, Y, and Z that they thought they knew.
Right.
So,
or being convinced that there's nothing there. Just don't worry. It's just don't worry. That's just goofy. It's just silly. There's nothing to look at. Just Truman Show types of stuff. As soon as you go down hey, what's down here? And they're like, oh no, not there. That's nothing there. Nothing there. Move along.
It's very, very helpful to realize I know very little. Very helpful. Not a game, really. Ra's reply: the governments of each of your societal division illusions desire to refrain from publicity, so that the surprise may be retained in the case of hostile action from what your peoples call enemies.
Right. So what he's saying is that they're going to keep the weapons secret. All this tech is going to keep secret until one of their enemies, which they control all three sides, right? So some other enemy somewhere could come out, and that's when they'll use it. Okay.
So you can see how far away they are in their thought.
So where this group is not going to let the free energy stuff out. As long as they're getting their way on to keep on top with this war stuff, you're gonna free energy. Stop.
They're like, lights.
Anyone that discovers it's got a death sentence.
In the sky, talking to ants. The government of the nations, countries, which they're using for the synonymous to nations or countries for them is societal division illusions. Yeah, because the borders are illusory or man-made. I mean, really, this is a very crude group. You can see how crude they are by the leadership, which presumes to be advanced intellectually, advanced spiritually, advanced morally.
Yeah, they're super crude because the Orions are crude. They're Orion group's negative and they're crude. So they're missing out on all kinds of stuff, right? They're the Grinch. They stole Christmas, all the Christmas presents, but the Who's down there or whatever, they still have Christmas. Okay. That is 40 negative right there.
The leadership, you can judge a nation's morality by its prisons. You can also judge it by the condition of its leadership, and that their ignorance is staggering in the face of their presumed advancement. Governments of each of your societal division illusions desire to refrain from publicity. They want to keep it secret so that they can keep surprise in the case of hostile action from their enemies, which of course they like and they keep maintaining enemies. And so that's also the case. The many people who've weighed in on World War III, which is now we're in the foothills of World War III. Today, nearby, February 2024. It's very possible that when, at some of the culmination and in stages of culmination of this now gathering storm, World War III, which is both East-West and leadership versus masses, both. And it's totally Armageddon of a final conflict of good and evil, or final choice point for these 3D souls. It may well be, yes, of course. Many of the seers have said, weapons that have never been used before will be observed, will be used.
Oh, okay. Well, so we're looking forward to that. Great. Hey, I moved to Mexico, by the way. If you want to know how that happened, I'll do a video on it. But there's places in the world that are going to be skipping this. It's already had it happen. It already collapsed. They're post collapse, right? They're called post collapse. So Mexico's one of those places. If the power goes out for 5 days here, so it's fine. Go out for a week. Go out for 10 days. Go out for a month. Might get some problems, but they'll just kick up the generators. Everything will work fine. Everyone's set up for it here.
Mega death.
Post collapse.
90% of the armies participating will get wiped out. So whatever the numbers, and that doesn't have to happen, actually, but it could. And so here it's a reference, I think, to the very well-known understanding by people who look deeply that secret technologies are, both sides are in possession of secret weaponry of various sorts, and will reserve their utilization or public disclosure only until necessary, in the final stages of all-out fight to the finish, which is, I think, what they may end up doing. How many of the craft does the United States have? The United States has 573 at this time.
I mean, maybe, but I don't know. They might just fake it and just get the world tyrannical order shit together. That seems like their game plan.
We're in the process of adding to this number. What's the maximum speed? And this is a pretty heavy shocker. 73 at this time.
So they're saying how many of these craft. So Ra's disclosing how many in 1981, how many craft they had, the U.S. government, of these anti-gravity type weapon drone crafty things.
What they may end up doing. How many of the craft does the United States have? The United States has 573 at this time. They're in the process of adding to this number. What's the maximum speed? And this is a pretty heavy shocker. The maximum speed, 810. The maximum speed of these craft, meaning drones, or whatever they are with their various uses, equal to the Earth energy squared. This field varies. So we're talking about drawing on the electromagnetic or energy fields of the planet itself. So as the planet fluctuates in certain energy conditions, so too would the speed of such craft. This field varies. The limit is approximately 1/2 the light speed. This is due to imperfections in design, and Dawn was.
So the craft that the U.S. have been allowed, or the Nazis or whoever, NASA have been allowed for the plans, only lets them go half the speed of light. So that does. I know that the reptilians definitely have jump rooms. I know that they have local jump rooms. Maybe that's just a technology. I'd like to borrow it, but they don't know how it works 100% yet. So I know that they can go fast distances very quickly. But maybe at the time in 1981, that was all that the reptilians were going to let these beings have is half the speed of light. So it takes you, a few years to get to the nearest star. So, but I'm sure they have much faster stuff than that. I mean, they're doing the Star Trek stuff, so they're doing warp 9 or 10. So they're doing, there was at 10 times the speed of light, 9 times the speed of light.
Probably like open mouth, slack jawed, open mouth, like, I would be. So they can go half the speed of light. Damn. Well, if they could man them, they could go.
So that allows us to zip around in our solar system pretty effectively. But going outside the solar system to other stars, it definitely would limit that. So that's probably on purpose. But I know they got the warp stuff going way beyond. They've been to other star systems back in the 30s. So who knows?
They could take ET home, which they've said one day.
Right, that's the guy from Skunkworks saying he could take ET home. Let me see if I can find that.
Well, if they could man them, they could take ET home, which they've said. One puppet said so. So take ET home.
Skunkworks.
Maybe they can go to other solar systems. I don't know. You see, if you have such power or capacity, you would damn well be super elitist and have an attitude of looking at humans like worms or vermin. because they're. I mean, I've seen people like this once upon a time in Manhattan, maybe in the late '70s at 21 Club, I think it is. Saw some guys, dressed, from Savile Row. They look British, frankly, walking down the stairs, and there was this sort of attitude. Maybe I've spoken this. It looked like they were descending from Olympus. One guy particularly had an attitude of sort of looking at people with profound contempt and scorn in the face, in the eyes, at the people that he was walking down to greet or walk through to the restaurant, like he was in another world. And that's not surprising if you have access. I'm not saying he did, but having access to this kind of technology would do it to you, or that would support such arrogance, or I mean, I don't even have the right words for it on demand, but a certain even emotionless presumption of intrinsic superiority. So anyway, okay, they go up to half the speed of light, which would mean that they can move far beyond the Earth if possible, if they were able to do that. The next section, bottom page 80, free energy, and that's what we're talking about. 811 Don asked, wouldn't this type of craft totally solve or come close to solving a lot of the energy problems as far as transport goes that were used to transporting inaudible? This was definitely, there was a lot of static in the multidimensional field in session 8. Ra's reply, the technology your peoples possess at this time is capable of resolving each and every limitation which plagues your social memory complex at this present nexus of experience. However, the concerns of some of your beings with distortions towards what you would call powerful energy cause these solutions to be withheld until the solutions are so needed that those with the distortion, meaning with the technology, can then become further distorted in the direction of power. How's that for convoluted language? So this technology, yes indeed, can resolve each and every problem that we have. They said each and every limitation, the whole of it, all of it. Of course.
So yeah, so they're saying that there exists this tech that is way beyond anything and that these people have it and they're keeping it to themselves. So this is Ben Rich. This is the second director of Lucky Skunk Works. This is the only image I could find. Sorry, there are two types of UFOs. Right, real quick. There are ones that we build and the ones that they build. We already have the means to travel among the stars, but the technologies are locked up with black projects. So take an act of God to get them out to benefit humanity. Thank you. Okay, we now have technology to take ET home. No, it won't take someone's lifetime to do it. There's an area in the equations. We know what it is. We know the capability to travel to stars. When Ben Rich was asked how UFO propulsion worked, he said, let me ask you, how does ESP work? The question has all points in time and space are connected, and Renzi says that's how it all works. Okay. So that's Ben Rich. Okay, there we go.
Of course, if you have access to infinite energy, which is intelligent energy, near infinite, I guess devices would be made to make devices. You can make devices to make devices to make devices that do everything you want, like robots, whatever, so that you can solve every problem. That's what they're saying. Resolving each and every limitation, not simply transport issues. Don was an airline pilot, so every single problem could be solved. Of course, no deed. However, what can't be solved is that the logos put weeds and flowers together in the cycle. That can't be solved. And that is a limitation. While it's a beautiful, wonderful catalyst for both sides, I guess, it's a real limitation that plagues the social memory complex.
So he's saying the catalyst. So they're saying, like, the fact that we have all this negativity around us that we have to deal with all this stuff, it's like, well, it's just more catalyst to grist for the mill, just stuff, more things to polish you, makes you super shiny to see what's going on. And yeah, I guess so. If you have the ability to see this stuff, which you have to have a lot of free time and like ability to like think for yourself and like take in all this crazy information. I mean, look at he's only got 7,000 subs in like 15 years of being on YouTube. Nobody wants this material. Just yeah. Most people have tuned out by now, like completely tuned out. So just like trying to study this stuff at all, yeah, we're super stuck. Oh man, we're super stuck.
Well, wonderful catalyst for both sides, I guess. It's a real limitation that plagues the social memory complex.
Oh, yeah, it's like we totally can't get up. It's not plague. It's totally devastating to the social memory complex. Our 3D Earth humans, we can't see eye to eye anything. We can't get together anything. We've been fighting each other forever. It's bad, and they think this is like a good way for us to graduate. I don't get it. Ra had a different experience when they went through their transition. They were a very homogeneous race. They didn't have this warring tribe thing. They weren't a bunch of runaways from slaves and war refugees. No, I didn't have that. So that's another reason why it's like just use the free energy. Watch now solve all the problems. It's like no, not with this group.
This social memory complex is plagued, this collective is plagued by its metaphysical configuration. Ooh, that's kind of funny. Not too jocular, though. The concerns of some of your beings towards what you would call powerful energy. The service to self, the negativity of your leadership. Political, military, economic, financial, occult. Uh, because you've got a whole bunch of negatively oriented souls all throughout the institutions of all the nations of the world, they are withholding the solutions. So that when things fall apart, which is by design, right, order out of chaos, is so that in the chaos they generate, they can be, they'll make top dollar, or they'll be able to, pick and choose continents when humanity is desperate for those technologies.
Yeah, that's that sickness. So okay, we're gonna hold back the super weapon until everyone's at war. We've created the war situation. Then we use the super weapon, and now we have the dominant power. We install banking systems now everywhere and use interest rates to enslave their local populations. That's what we do.
So then we're talking about some applications like free energy.
That's money, baby.
Or the end of um, beyond fossil fuels and electricity and all that. The new age of energy. That itself, that potential is being withheld. Okay, so we know that's how it goes. That's a business technique. All right. Okay. Orion landings, top page 81. Yeah, 81.
Slave business.
812. Don asks. At the same time, you mentioned that some of the landings. So we're talking about all these things together. You mentioned that some of the landings were of our peoples, meaning human in craft coming down that would be thought to be ED. You also mentioned that some were of the Orion group. We talked a little about the Orion group, but why do the Orion group land here? What's their purpose? So this is 812, right? Right after Ra's very, very dense and provocative answer regarding free energy, Don goes straight back to Orion and Orion landings. I think this was a matter of he had a bunch of questions to be asked in the session, and he wanted to cover all of them or many as much as.
Yeah, he's a professor, and he had a list of questions, and this poor the time period that they have open to do this kind of question and answer stuff is limited, and it was being interfered with, and it did take a toll on the people there, and one person, a very heavy toll.
As possible. And this material is so intense and so shocking to him at the time that he needed to regroup, to integrate, to formulate new questions for the next sessions. So we go, make a couple of lateral moves in this session 8. Why do they land here? What's their purpose? Ross said their purpose is conquest. Unlike those of the Confederation who wait for the calling, the so-called Orion group calls itself to conquest.
Yeah, so the Orion group, the service itself as empire of conquest, they call themselves. so the service. That's so funny how Ra puts it. So the Ra says, so they took the call to themselves. It's like so because Ra can't quite get the perspective that this is how predators work, and parasites find their hosts. Yeah, they can't see it that way, so they have to put it in this terms of calling, because that's how they understand it. It's like that's how they get approached, because they believe in the law of one. So then free will, they won't, unless someone's actually saying, hey, knocking at your door, like, hey, we gotta ask you something, or they won't come into your neighborhood and bother you. But the Orion group does the self calling.
So again, Ra's answers embody metaphysical principles in the very structure of their answer. Their purpose is conquest, unlike those of the Confederation, whose purpose is not conquest. The Confederation, whose purpose is not conquest, wait for the calling. Waiting for the calling is not associated with conquest. Calling oneself is what leads to conquest. The Orion group calls itself to conquest, and Orion group doesn't wait for the calling. The Orion group calls itself, and beings who don't wait for the calling and call themselves to action or intervention, to mixing it up with someone or people, they are thereby calling themselves to conquest. The way of conquest is not waiting for call, but jumping in and intervening regardless of the other person.
Right. They don't knock on the door. They bust down the door and said, "Hey, we're moving in." You got a problem with that? Whereas the Raw group will knock nicely on your front door and, you know, uh, is blah blah home? Yes. Can we speak to her, please? You know, they'll come in like that. They won't like bust down the door and say, "We're here, bitch. Give us food. We're spending the next 2 weeks here."
I don't care what you think. I'm going to help you. Uh-huh. Is that help or is that control? So
Yeah,
conquest is
yeah.
utter control, or absolute control is associated with what's called conquest. It's over. The attempting is finished. The work is over to some degree. Conquest indicates total absolute control or totalitarian control. Totally.
Like just ignoring the free will, you know, just not valuing the free will of other people. You know, only valuing your own free will. Okay, that serves itself. Okay.
Totalistic control. That's what Orion's all about. Planetary enslavement. And that's what the negatives are all about. And that's why they're pushy. And that's why they're needy. They're very emotionally needy. They need to keep calling themselves to others who don't want them. Inclusive, sustainable, and resilient. Mm-hmm. Inclusive means no one will escape. We're going to call ourselves to control everybody.
Yeah, inclusive. Meaning you can't escape. That's the definition of it. The definition of inclusivity. You can't leave. Once you're here, there ain't no going back.
Sustainable means we can keep it going forever.
We keep it going for. We're always in charge now.
And resilient means we can make sure we can keep it forever.
Yeah, we're gonna keep this thing going for as long as we feel like it. Got a problem with that?
We are immune to robbery, immune to loss of the growing power, to the condition of total control, which is called conquest. And so
that's the reptilian Orion group's nut right there.
one
That's
should be
how
careful.
they do it in a nutshell.
Don't be pushy in your attempts to be of service. Wait for the call, and that means one needs to be sensitive to what calling is.
Yeah, if you're positively oriented. If you're not positively oriented, if you're negatively oriented, no, you bust the door down and you say, "What's up, bitch? What you gonna do about it?" And a lot of people who have been traumatized and are war refugees go, "Whatever you say, sir."
So don't call yourself to controlling, thinking you're helping. But that's what Orion's all about. And
well, of course, for nice people, yes, Scott, of course. We know, nice people already know the rules, and bad people don't give a shit about rules.
Human leadership, military, government, ... They are tools. They are Orion's minions. They are minions and tools, like the movie Minions. Yeah, just like that.
Just
and
like
they're,
that.
You know, they're interchangeable.
The movie Minions explains 4D Orion perfectly. Perfectly. Almost like that movie was meant to drip disclosure. Who is 4D Orion? What are these people about? It shows exactly what they're about.
Changeable, and they're disposable tools. When one tool is broken, they throw it away and put in a new one, and that's part of the job,
like a replaceable cog in a machine.
The work. And there are only certain people that are willing to do that, to be used and dumped, and think that if they keep pleasing the master, their superiors, they'll stay in favor, or they want to stay in favor to keep their benefits. There are only certain kind of people. Not everybody wants to do that. There's a certain kind of spiritual debasement needed for the character to let yourself get kicked around indefinitely to get more power, to let yourself be, it's.
The ones that want to preserve things, if it's good to preserve, wonderful. But the ones that want to keep things going because they want to keep their cushy gob going, get their career going, keep their career, and be in good standing, yeah, that's when it gets bad.
Hoard out to superiors. It's a problem. But not, and that's why we can see their moral condition is of a person who would live a life like that, basically, dancing for their dinner, endlessly. So, okay, what do they do when they land? 813, Ross said there are two types of, quote, landings, and the word landing is not literal necessarily. In the first type of landing, quote, entities among your peoples are taken on their craft and programmed for future use. This is one of the most bitter answers of the whole 106 sessions, in my view, 813. So this is negative ET contact, this is abduction, this is a deeper level, this shows you the depths of evil that are straight, pure 4D negative. Okay, in the first type of landing of the two, entities among your people are taken aboard the craft, on the craft, and programmed for future use. There are 2 or 3 levels of programming.
Yeah, so all these ET abductee psychiatrists, psychologists guys, they never talk about the second or third levels of programming. They don't talk about this first level of programming. That's odd. Not one mentions it, but the law of one points it out like, oh yeah, this is how it works. This is how it's put together. But you've never heard this. Okay, gotcha. All right.
First, the level that will be discovered by those who do research. Second, a triggering program. Third, a second and most deep triggering program, crystallizing the entity, thereby rendering it lifeless and useful as a kind of beacon. This is a form of landing.
So MK Ultra was designed to install this kind of shit in a lot of people. Trauma-based mind control, where they give you traumas, especially young children at an early age, to fracture your brain into 1,000, your mind into 1,000 different little subsections, and each one can be programmed individually. This is the same technology, same stuff, same crap. I wonder where they got it.
It's really soul possession, but it's not totally soul possession. It's really temporary, taking temporary possession of mind body spirit complex.
Yeah, so when like Sirhan, if you go look into his story, that guy's like a perfect example. He doesn't remember any of that stuff because he got a trigger pulled. He got one of these mind control command trigger sequence operations when it's installed in him, whether it was Seduction or MK Ultra or 1,000 other lab experiment shits they've been doing to people. You go look into Sirhan if you want to see what a mind control operation looks like. A mind control operative. Holy shit.
Or at least the mind-body portions of mind-body spirit complex. Temporary control, autopilot of the mind-body of the mind-body spirit complex or a person. That they call a form of landing, which is not really landing. It's possession.
So that's why they have these strange terms. Ara uses really odd terms because from their point of view, right, they are landing, right? Anything that comes up from these high levels, you're coming down to these very low levels. Just like when you use a microscope, you're kind of landing into by taking your awareness and putting it into down inside this lower level. That's how they're kind of seeing it. It's like I'm bringing my consciousness way down. So that's when they mean a landing. So even like these fourth density creatures, when they take their spacecraft and land, it's like they're coming from like a higher density levels oftentimes because the technology that they have is their awareness of these other higher densities is much more advanced than the humans are. Well, me and you humans, like not the people that know all this stuff. So they're kind of doing a sort of landing. So that's kind of how they see it.
Temporary. The second form, and you can see some leaders are like that. Actually, they're mind controlled not only by technology but by 40 negative. Second form of quote landing is that of landing beneath the Earth's crust, which is entered from water. Again, in the general area of your South American and Caribbean areas and close to the so-called North Pole, the bases of these people are underground bases, DUMBs, deep underground military bases. Richard Sauder, a very intrepid fellow who nearly lost everything looking at DUMBs and all that. SAUDER, important linkage. Guy's been in this for a long time.
Also, Phil Schneider,
very honest researcher. So okay, I mean Don's been blown away by this, and most people would because, what had come before is kind of very homey Confederation messages of inspiration and a kind of UFO feeling. Rank evil, black evil, meaning pure, unadulterated service to self, high-end service to self. A very significant lack of love, compassion, sympathy, care. Pure evil black. It doesn't mean skin color, obviously. Black, white. In this case, its absence is the degree to which there's an absence of love, compassion, sympathy, heart. And so the greater the heart chakra blockage and destruction, cremation of care, destruction of care and compassion and sympathy, the greater the destruction of that or heart chakra blockage, the more, quote, pure the evil.
Right. So they have to block out the heart chakra. So they just have to they have to completely like not think of any other people at all. So at the solar plexus, third chakra is all about sense of self, sense of me. I am, how my place in the world, things like that. But the heart chakra flips around. It's like all about the other person, how they're doing, how if they're doing all right. And it's like you have to balance those two out. And if you're doing negative ones, you have to completely cut it out. Like if you're very solipsistic, very myopically focused in onto service to self only, and anything that's done is in the service of only serving the self. So anytime you can fuck somebody over, like just never think of the other person as human or even another being of worthy of any sort of any sort of dignity. No dignity allowed. So and then you develop the throat chakra, so you talk real pretty, and you know how to debate and all that stuff, and then then you also manipulate your third eye, so you only see certain things. It does open up psychic abilities that allow you to communicate with demonic forces, these fifth density beings, and they'll give you insights and for payment, of course, because they're playing the game as well.
So this is taking people on the ship. I mean, this is what Orion is doing, and so this is saying that no, not all abductions are MILABs, military abductions. MILAB is a term, MILABS. There's a book on that, some books. This also put me on the shit list, being that I knew this stuff and talked about it a little in the 90s and the aughts. Put me.
So my lab is military lab, military abductions. I've heard both things, because the abductions, they'll usually take them to a lab or use a lab on the ships of some ways, and some of these are looks like they were ETs. Some of them are Orion. Some of them are rogue groups coming in and doing it. Some of them are government forces. Some of them are corporations that are doing their own thing. It's a big mess. It's a big mess.
On the same shit list as the raw material, L&L research. So Orion does real abduction. I mean, from what Ra's saying, maybe it's bullshit, but from what Ra's saying, I should at least understand it deeply. They are, one type of their contacting, quote, landing is, abduction. Taking people on the craft and programming them. This whole notion of probing to look at the genetics or this and that may be a cover story. It may be the level of programming that will be discovered by those who do research. Those who do research into abduction are partly, from what Ra's saying here, finding what Orion wished them to find, which is called a cover story, which is called a lie, a set of lies. The initial level of programming, according to what is being said here in 813, is intended to be found, is established as the first level of programming, so that those looking in will find it.
Yeah, like a decoy wallet. Yeah, so we don't. I mean, Gurdjieff talks about how we have these organic portals, which means soulless humans, and maybe these humans have been programmed to be soulless, and they're either highly influenced through the scrying tablets, but maybe there's some they need to give a little more attention to for some reason. It's not clear exactly why, but we know that things are happening and it has something to do with these entities, 40 negatives, wanting to do something to us. It's not clear. They definitely want to control us and feed on us. They do use us for food, and they do like to torture us. The fifth density entities seem to feed off fear and anguish. It's really odd.
It's high-end surface self strategy, of course. So if you want to hide something, you give one way is to give something that will be found. All right, and then Dave's gone. And then the triggering program, the next, and that's just the screen memory type thing. And some researchers talk about that screen memory, that there's a fake memory implanted. Some researchers into this are very bright, actually, and then some are tools themselves. Then there are two levels.
Right, that's the thing. Like looking into this stuff, you can't just look at one source, because the one source may be a shill, it may be a grifter, they may be clueless, they may be making it up, or it actually may be the real deal information. And the only way you know this stuff is like cross-referencing and maybe having some things happen to you that make it more real. But yeah, this I'm gonna do a review of Mirage Men. This UFO area is so messed with. It's so funny. It's really interesting because what's curious about it is they're not going after dragon conventions. They're not going after elf conventions. They're not going in the Renaissance Fair. They're not trying to debunk dragons and fairies and unicorns. No. They don't give a fuck about that shit. But this UFO stuff, they're all over it, man. All these agents and stuff are like, who knows about it? What are they saying? Get them! It's crazy.
Programming. Trigger two levels of triggering. At the 3 levels of programming, 2 of which are triggering. The first is, in this case, from this statement, what is known by those doing the programming to be found, which is the cover story. The second and third levels are triggering. The second level as a triggering is when that person, it's like Manchurian Candidate stuff, you know? Nathan Bonabama, yes. Are you Nathan Bonabama? You know, first, middle, last name, whatever that was. Yes, and then he's on. And so that's real. And human controllers know that.
Oh yeah.
Then the next level, the third level of programming, which is the second level.
And the thing about that is that not everybody is susceptible to it, right? Not 100% of people. But a lot of people are. And there's some that are really susceptible to it. And there's some that are really, really, really susceptible to it. That are outstandingly susceptible to it. And guess what? Guess who they use?
Level of triggering, which is most deep triggering, which is basically taking the mind offline from spirit, temporarily disabling autonomy, the linkage between mind and spirit, and that's probably very self-associated what they put into vaccines. I wouldn't be surprised if they have put into some of the medical products forced on people some of what they've learned how to control minds. So, but not everybody, you know, is as vulnerability is variable. Vulnerability is variable. That this happens doesn't mean everybody's vulnerable. Everyone's vulnerable to a different degree, and some people not at all, actually. And some people don't know anything about this, are not at all vulnerable. Not because they don't know, but because karmically or soul evolution, it's you know, irrelevant. It's not needed. It's not what Atman ordered, what the doctor ordered. So, and some people are just too clean to this is just gonna, like Mr. Magoo, right? Mr. Magoo simply didn't, karmically was undeserving of getting smashed all the many times he didn't get smashed. He could have gotten smashed, but he didn't, because he karmically was simply undeserving of getting smashed, and he had, you know, a happy demeanor. So,
Yes.
I have respect for Mr. Magoo. So then,
Mr. Magoo.
that's 813 would be, if you share that with abduction researchers, I wouldn't talk to them anymore, but many years ago I talked to Deborah Lindemann, wife of Michael Lindemann, involved in this, who were pretty good people. Abduction researchers and therapists would know about these things, but once you get into that community, it's filled with dangerous characters.
A lot of agents.
The other form is landing.
I wonder why. I wonder why the abduction community is so full of agents. The elf abduction community, no problem there. We got we got dwarf abduction. Nah, I don't give a fuck. Unicorn abductions. Who gives a shit about that? But UFO abductions, get our best men out there.
From water, under the Earth's crust from water. So undersea bases.
Shut those bastards down!
Bermuda Triangle Zone, Chile, Raha talked about. There's all this stuff going on that is completely unprovable, but I think really true, happening. And it only reinforces the...
some of it's provable. But whether you want to believe it or not, that's a whole other thing.
The beliefs, conduct coming from the beliefs of those with access to the technology, that they themselves are utterly, intrinsically superior and chosen, or at least divinely or universally privileged and worthy above everybody else.
Well, that's their service to self. That is all their belief that are in that group. They are the supreme. Yes, this is their core belief. This is what they know. They're the shit, and you're not.
Because they have access to all this. So we'll see what happens to the global authority when the enemies of the host return, as in the colony. So
yeah, that Sam Vardica fire ain't no, like, that stuff is no joke. Sam Vardica fire. Oof. Yeah, this stuff here, right here. Spirit of this stuff. Oof. Yeah. So that's kind of, talking about the solar event. That's what that is.
Can run, but you cannot hide.
Return
the law
of
of karma.
Christ.
Gatama talked poignantly about karmic
The
law.
return of the Christ one.
Hide yourself in caverns under the ocean or under the earth, but karmic law is above all that and will not be denied. But we'll see. What will be, will be. The logo seems to feel some value there is to all this. 814. What do the Orion Group have? What's the objective with respect to the conquest of the Orion Group? Meaning, why are they into conquest? And Ra reiterates, they said, as we have said previously, their objective is to locate certain mind-body-spirit complexes, people, which vibrate in resonance with their own vibrational complex, meaning oriented towards self, then to enslave the unelite, as you may call those who are not of the Orion vibration. The Orion vibration is another somewhat poor way of putting it, who are not seeking, who are not on the negative path. The Orion vibration is 40 negative, mainly. What is that? Well, that's just a sincere commitment to control and domination as seen as righteous and proper. The negatives would say they're doing God's work, or they are God, or whatever.
Yeah, they're doing God's work, and they kind of are by giving this service that allows us catalysts of our souls of who we are as beings, what we're made of, what our metal is, to rub against us, to show us what we are and what we're not. Without them, we don't know really what's going. Everything's topsy turvy. But with them, we get to clearly, cleanly see the delineation between the moral basis, service to self, service to other, and we get to navigate it with our free will. Yeah, that's it. That's the game. Okay.
Believe that they have the universe should be is a place that should be put into order, and that they have such technology and wealth and power is proof of their intrinsic superiority, their metaphysical superiority. They would probably think.
That's how they see it. If it wasn't for them, you all would be screwed up. You all would be really messed up. But because of them, things are in order. Things are put straight. You've got you know how things are going. That's how they see it.
that that I have all this and you all don't is the proof of my utter superiority.
Right. And also, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it?
Thus may I do whatever I wish to the inferiors, which would be enslave the unelite, as Ross said. Right. I think so. So it means
try and stop us. That's their attitude. Oh. Like, what are you going to do about it? Nothing. Get back to work.
Locate those that are going to, willing to sign up on the team and enslave everybody else. Okay? Mid-page 81. Humanity is 3D, but Earth is already 4D. This, of course, needs much unpacking. Don asked, and now we're out of session 8. We're out of that. 1322, Don asked, what's the density level of our planet Earth at this time? Ross said, the sphere upon which you dwell is third density in its beingness of mind-body-spirit complexes. It is now in a space-time continuum fourth density. This is causing a somewhat difficult harvest.
No shit.
Yeah, this is a planet of difficulty. Or this cycle has been one trouble after another. And I guess, there are problem children in the family of the Lord.
Yeah, we're in the rehab of the reject pile of the school, of the reform school.
So this is one of them. This planet, this cycle. The planet is glorious. It's just the cycle has been one problem after another, one failure, one defeat, one debacle after another.
The cycle he's talking about is a 75,000 year cycle, and this is the end of the cycle where we get to graduate. And, the last 75 years of Earth history with humans has just been terrible. Like, we just can't stop fighting. Well, half the souls here are from Mars, supposedly, and they've just been fighting the whole time. That's just their race, is just fighting the whole time. I mean, humans in general, we fight all the time, and with this group egging us on, we definitely fight. But we're the ones fighting all the time, so maybe we should stop taking orders from these assholes.
Because of because of logoic configuration, but logoic configuration is meaning the choice of the players on the field, in the seeds in the field, the players on the field, the seeds the seeds in the garden, in the field of the Lord, planet Earth, the game field of 3D soul evolution. Or soul evolution in third density for these souls by the configuration, by the choice of players on the field, or seeds in the garden. This has been a cycle of regular debacle and distress and suffering and reversal and boom and busting, and of course now difficult harvest. And so what is interesting is that the planet, the sphere upon which you dwell, the beingness of mind-body-spirit complexes, meaning the soul of beingness as akin to higher self, the essential evolutionary level, not of higher self, but associated with the wholeness of being, of what I is, my body, spirit, beingness, totality complex, the octavic selfhood, beingness. In that totality, from that perspective, we're talking about a certain level of soul evolution. The seven-dimensional self, let's say, seven-dimensional mind, body, spirit, beingness, totality complex, is activated 1, 2, 3 for souls that are 3D natives. And they are still 3D. So it's the beingness of the beings here, of the sphere upon which we dwell, they are third density. That aspect of physical life or Earth is of third density. But Earth itself, apart from the mind, body, spirit complexes, or the people and their beingness, aside from that, the planet's already in 4D, and that's a real problem. That is exactly why why we feel time is going faster, or time is much accelerated, because we're sensitive to green ray, because we're already working green, blue, indigo. If you're working green, blue, indigo, you're aware of universal qualities like love, compassion, ahimsa, harmlessness, non-control, and wisdom, discernment, vivek.
Yeah. So people are kind of aware of this, but also, this is a super distracted environment. Too. That's the thing that's speeding up. I'm wondering if people who do a lot of meditation and spend a lot of time by themselves and not with electronic devices, whether they consider time speeding up. They may be as a psychological effect, but it does feel like time is going faster. Maybe it's just getting older or what, but it does seem like events are going faster. Like news cycles are tightening up faster. Um, yeah, so definitely I'm feeling these effects, but a lot of this is subjective.
Viveka from Sanskrit, and buddhi, and prajna, panya, the value of wisdom and clear knowing, which is itself also transpersonal. It ain't a personal property.
Yeah, so he's using these words that just mean truth, being grounded, being in reality, knowing what's right from wrong, that level of stuff. It's if you know that stuff, consider yourself blessed. And if you have the ability, if you can live like that and embody those values, you're way far along the game.
And some greater reality beyond the physical, and a greater identity beyond my body. There's the spiritual dimension. Then we're working in indigo. So green, blue, indigo. People activated to green, blue, indigo are more aware of the 4D vibe, and we see certain things that other people who are not vibing in green, blue, indigo couldn't see, can't think. And so the separation of the paths, the three-way split, the wheat and the chaff, is a pace, in process. The winnowing, the great winnowing. Not everybody, obviously, is going to
Even though we're
inherit the
living
kingdom
down
of heaven on
here,
earth. So, okay, from another session 17, this distinction of humanity being 3D consciousness, but the planet already in a 4D field. 17.1, Don says, thank you very much. I wish to say again, I consider it an honor, great honor, and also privilege as my inaudible. And I would like to reiterate that my questions may sometimes go a little off because I keep going on something that I had already started to work into, the applications of the law of one to better understand primarily the free will principle and further distortions that we discover. Yeah. So, this was pretty overwhelming. I'd like to reiterate, I think he's saying, my questions may sometimes go a little off, meaning not centered in what he thinks would be the best question, although his questions are generally quite excellent, because as he's understanding his process, I keep going.
I mean, for 1981, it was really good. But for today, I would have gone on a complete different tack.
On something I had already started to work into, meaning.
But that's after I've studied this material and looked at all the questions and had a mentor teacher like Scott go through and explain each thing one by one for the last 5 or 6 years. So I have that little, perspective as well. So okay.
He's working on asking questions previously written before the session, while new material comes streaming at him. Other material he started to work into applications of law 1, and he's trying to understand the free will principle and distortions to free will. So I got 3 questions just now in meditation. I'll ask them before we continue. First, are we now in fourth density? So this was 4 sessions after session 13. He's asking it again to get more. First, are we now in fourth density? Will the effects of fourth density increase in the next 30 years? And this was the great fun thing that Gary and I and some people at LNL and others had, thinking, well, this was in 1981, thus what, fourth density will be in place and harvest and everything will be finished by 2011? Obviously not. So will the effects of fourth density increase in the next 30 years? Of course, they'll increase until the dimensional shift. Will we see...
They'll keep going until the shift happens. Okay. The thing about these timelines is it's not based on time. The way humans are calculating time with the years and the Earth spinning around is a day, and that's not really not like consciousness time. Consciousness time is like our social memory complex time, and I do believe that the logos, which is the sun, uh, the solar sun, our star, um, does pay attention to see how ready people are, but time is also getting short. So that thing's also has some sort of there's some process going on where it can't stop. There is a time it can hit the brakes, but it can't stop it. So I think there is a little bit of that going on. So the timelines shift around depending on the people. They can get longer and shorter, and also they're being intervened on, right? So we have this confederation who is also doing their, they don't want anybody to die anymore. They don't want people to their soul systems to be crushed out. They want people to go and keep going wherever they want. And the funny thing about it is a lot of people in the confederation with the ships, a lot of the previous SSP disclosures said, "Oh, these ships are going to show up and they're going to do a rescue mission." It's like, no, no, don't do that. Do not get on the ships. If you listen to this far, you know good enough well you shouldn't be getting on those ships. Damn well, good damn well you're not getting on those ships. So yeah, so the those ships will be taking and helping the reptilians go to another 3D world where they'll repeat the cycle 75,000 years. Hopefully, maybe make it out the next time around and not repeat like they are this one. But the next world they're going to be on won't be as nice as this one, from what Braz is understanding. So it's best to try and make it to the end of the cycle now, if you can.
See more changes in our environment and our effect upon the environment. Will we see more changes in our environment and our effect upon our environment? That's unclear. Ra explains this is a very nice answer regarding the nature of fourth density and how that how it's affecting how the nature of what the nature of fourth density is and how it affects humanity and Earth today, where humanity is stuck in yellow orange or orange yellow, and the planet is already brightly lit in green. Right? Ra said the fourth density is a vibrational spectrum. Your time-space continuum, your time, has spiraled your planetary sphere and your what we call galaxy, what you call star, meaning solar system, into this vibration. This will cause the planetary sphere itself to electromagnetically realign its vortices of reception of the instreaming of cosmic forces, expressing themselves as vibrational webs so that the Earth will thus be fourth density magnetized, as you might call it. This is going to occur with some inconvenience, Earth changes, as we said before, due to the energies of the thought forms of your people, which disturb the orderly constructs of energy patterns within your Earth's spirals of energy, which increases entropy and unusable heat.
So yeah, he's just saying that people being angry makes the people getting through this catalyst and getting pissed off and not handling it well is causing these earth changes. Part of it, okay, that might be true. And then when he's talking about these colors, he's talking about the chocolate colors between red, orange, Roy G. Bibbs. So red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. So he's saying that Earth right now, the most humans are in this yellow part here. God damn, why does it gotta go gray here? But we are moving into the heart. That's why the meek shall inherit the earth, because a lot of the people are gonna get on those ships, just like they were told to take the oath. And they said yes, let's do it. That was kind of a test run. To it's like, oh, the solution is that okay, we got something's gonna be happening to the sun. Blah blah blah. Oh, we discovered another Earth only a couple light years away. Oh, we just discovered warp drives. Oh, we're gonna go help you. Oh, look, we got the Confederation's here. They're come to help. Oh, don't get on the ships, man. All I have to do is stay here, and we will create another paradise.
Volcanism or tectonic shift. This will cause your planetary sphere to have some ruptures in its outer environment.
That's the whole thing. Now, whether it's going to happen now or the next 100 years, we don't know. But it does seem like things are heated up. And even if it doesn't work, if it does not work, but even if this doesn't happen, which something's gonna happen, but even if it doesn't happen, being a good person and like trying to change your point of view to be to get ready for this is probably a good idea. I don't know, but do what you want.
Physical.
I don't.
While making itself appropriately magnetized for fourth density, this is the planetary adjustment. You know, anybody who could read that would know planetary adjustment ruptures in its outer garment. Physical. While making itself appropriately magnetized for fourth density, this is the planetary adjustment. You know, anybody.
Right. He's saying so. Like all this releasing of all this negative energy. It's like it seems like this is kind of what L. Ron Hubbard was picking up on when he was like the negative beings being caught inside the volcanoes. He may have been talking about this stuff. He may because he took his stuff from all over the place, and this material has been it's around. It's like this is nothing new, but the fact that it's a catalyst and people being not taking the having a proper good attitude is pissing off the earth.
Who could read that would know that would I think be cognizant that the speaker is head and shoulders above nearly all other channeled speakers.
Oh yeah.
But only few people could read this and understand it.
Right.
And so few people.
Yeah, it's very difficult to understand. So thank you, Scott.
People can know the level of their own preferred teaching. Only people, only the guy above me, taller than me, can see my scalp. I can't see the scalp of the guy taller than me. The problem here is that humans, Earth wanderers, are caught up in the maelstrom to some degree of insecurity-based arrogance and dogmatism.
Yeah, that's the Ryan group. That's their influence on making humans choose the codependency. Kudos. Well done, guys. You got most people. Most people totally you got them.
In a world that doesn't even understand love, many spiritually oriented New Age people at the mid levels of development, who are often six Nancy Wonders, the riffraff of the New Age movement, the hoi polloi of the New Age community, have some sense that, well, look, we don't want to hurt anybody, and we know better than you, which is true, that they know better than most everyone else about the metaphysics of Earth and humanity and purpose and life purpose. But they become comparably dogmatic as those worldly folks they rightly reject. And so we take on certain arrogance and dogmatism of the community around us, where nice guys finish last. So if you're very gentle in your speaking, people will go to the louder source, the one who has unquestionable conviction in their beliefs. I know.
We have the answer. You just need to sign up for our course, and we'll give you the answer to unlimited power.
I am the commander of the Ashtar legions, and I can tell you this, and I can tell you that. Come to me and give me money. Would be the thought.
Yeah, that's always the same. I will charge you for the unlimited power. Well, if you have unlimited power, sir, why don't you just give me what you have? If you have limited, why do you have to charge me for it? Don't ask questions. Burn the heretic.
The New Age hoi polloi, the New Age riffraff, love over wisdom. Love over wisdom is better than no love at all. And so there's some sense of, we know what you masses don't know, and that gives them a certain carte blanche, white card, to become dogmatic in what they think is a final understanding. And therefore, they don't even realize there are sources way above their preferred sources,
right?
Like the raw material, or Patanjali and Gautama.
I mean, people don't want to think that they're stupid, and honestly, a lot of the people that do know this information are pretty arrogant about it, and pretty much an asshole about it. But oftentimes, what also I've found is the people that understand this don't want to talk to you. They don't want to talk to anybody unless you're already kind of in this wavelength. They don't really want to. Nah, just go to your gurus. Go find your quick shortcut quick help guys. Get back to you when you've run through all that shit and realize what it is.
Nityananda. And so because they don't know, they can't even read. They won't even reading this paragraph and realize that no other source that they look into could explain it this clearly. Explain what? Explain Earth changes and the current geophysical disturbance of Earth now at this time in history. The inconvenience, meaning Earth changes, of weather and volcanism, earthquakes, volcanoes, and shifting and all this. Climate change, the real climate change. There is real climate change, but it's not caused by farts and human development. It's actually part of this transition.
Right. Yeah, that's the big secret. And honestly, a lot of these people that are concerned about it here are the ones pushing it, but they also are also kind of aware that this is their end. This is the end. If this is what it is, if these Earth changes, if this all is true, and it seems to be, just my opinion, leading up to some pretty amazing event, I think.
Due to the energies of the thought forms, the inconvenience is that humanity being 3D consciousness in the 3D consciousness spectrum, which is pretty much 3.2, 3.1, 3.2, 3.3. Third density body, third density beingness, focused at the level of physical 3.1, focused at the level of emotional and self-referential, self-centered 3.2, or focused at the level of social working, which is generally fighting in society 3.3, or overly attached to the human social 3.3. Because of that spectrum, which is mainly 3.2, 3.3, of humanity that is in conflict or not quite resonant, harmonic with the green ray, thus we have thought forms of our peoples of humanity disturbing orderly constructs of energy patterns within Earth spirals of energy. Planetary energy is in conflict with human forms of the peoples of that.
So when he's talking about these numbers, 3.2, 3.2, so he split the energy centers from 1 to 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And each one of these is then split up into 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, Point 0.1, point 0.2, point 0.3, point 0.4, point 0.5, point 0.6, point 0.7. Point 0.1, point 0.2, point 0.3, point 0.4, point 0.5, point 0.6, point 0.7. So he's talking about the sub chakras within each chakra. It's just another way of saying, okay, inside each one of these, each levels of consciousness, you have an internal, another level chain of consciousness, which is mirroring the outer style. So that's what he's talking about when he's talking about the 3.1, 3.2, 3. Whatever. That's what he was talking about. It took me forever to figure that out.
Spectrum, which is mainly 3.2, 3.3, of humanity that is in conflict or not quite resonant, harmonic with the green ray. Thus, we have thought forms of our peoples of humanity, disturbing orderly constructs of energy patterns within Earth's spirals of energy. Planetary energy is in conflict with human culture, human civilizational energetics. There's a misfitting, a dissonance, a non-resonance, a non-harmony, a disharmony. And then that creates entropy, increases entropy and with heat. That's volcanism and heat coming from the center up. And that's global warming. Global warming is mainly associated with historical human distortion, human negativity, human evolutionary stasis, not their claimed human inputs or eating meat. It's they lie continually, and more people are realizing that leadership is simply a bunch of paid liars. This is a very damaging matter for their long-term prospects, because evil grows in the space of darkness and ignorance, and as there's less darkness and a little bit more awareness, or little bit more vidya and less avidya, more seeing clearly, the scales taken from their eyes, a certain kind of negative activity is impeded and threatened. So okay, and actually I'm gonna have to end this session today mid reply, which was this long reply here, 17.1, where first they're talking about fourth density versus the planetary energy, and then the result of human consciousness being disharmonious or non-resonant, dissonant to the planetary energy condition. Then the nature that as the metaphysical understanding of Earth changes, spoken in a way you won't see other channels say so, except if they're copying raw. And the result of that is all sorts of disruptions in the planetary cycles and energetics of climate and season and weather and geology and geomagnetism, dot, dot, dot. And I said, this is the planetary adjustment. Next time we pick up in this.
Yeah, I don't know if it's. I mean, I know that humans have something to do with the Earth changes as well. And Ra definitely says there are. I mean, it may be 20%, but I think most of the Earth changes are coming just from the sun, the electromagnetic or whatever physics operations are happening in the sun. Because according to NASA's own measurements, all the bodies in the solar system, all the planets are all heating up at the same rate. So that's also an interesting thing they fail to mention often. So that's go check out Scott Mandelker's channel. I'm gonna give him a like and subscribe here, but I gotta sign in here. So that is a little bit about Earth history according to Ra.